We get the same thing.
Good morning, guys. It's Thursday, so it's like our Friday on Reseller Revenue Patreon and Facebook group. I appreciate you guys for hanging out. We got a lot of people on spring break this week, but we are gonna knock it out and finish strong. I'm gonna do a topic really quick, and then I will end the recording so that the people, if we put on YouTube, don't have to listen to me drone on too long. But we're going to talk about our death piles or our inventory today. And if anybody wants to be able to hop on and join in our conversations we have, a lot of them don't get recorded. Most of them don't, or all get recorded. They don't get put on YouTube. And so if you want access to all those recordings or to join us, go on to Patreon, Reseller Revenue, join us that way. But I've been thinking about a lot about inventory levels because I had all that inventory build up for my surgery. I had uh, about 3 months worth, and I calculated it was $11,000 sitting there. So if you take your average cost of goods sold per day listing and you have a queue, you should always know how many dollars worth of inventory you have in your business at all times. That's like a given to me. And I realize I'm super business focused, I'm super numbers driven, and it probably really irritates you guys. But I've ran a lot of businesses, managed a lot of businesses, and I don't understand how we don't know how many dollars worth of inventory are in our business at all times. So we want to be treated like a business, we need to act like businesses. And so at any given time within a week or even a month, you should be able to tell me I have this many dollars worth of inventory on hand. And if we can't, I would really, really suggest we get to that goal. And that doesn't mean, except for the box of jewelry sitting in the corner, because I haven't gone through it yet. That doesn't count. Like it has a dollar amount. And sometimes we don't want to tell ourselves the truth on what that dollar amount is, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, it's just better that, I'll just say it's $20, $40. No, how many pieces are in that? Listable pieces. What's our average cost of goods? Do that math because it'll shock the hell out of you is why most people don't like to do it, right? If I lived in a more populated where I could just leave the door, go on sourcing route and get my inventory, I would only run like a 3 or 4 day queue probably because I don't want to sit on my money. But since my niche is a little different or whatever, I still only try to about 30-day queue. I feel like I'm at a great disadvantage with sourcing because it is harder for me to find it. I have to do online, which is shipping. I'm relying on other people to get inventory to me on time. It can get complicated. So I'd say if your inventory system, I realize I'm going to get a little pushback on this, is if you have more than a 6-week queue, I feel like we're not using our money as efficiently as we could. And then we get into well, it's a profit pile and I don't have to worry about it. I have all this inventory sitting there ready to list. But it's not making me any money sitting in that pile, right? And so we need to be making money. We need our money's job is to make money. So we need to make money. So the first step is to be honest with yourself. Take that step. Go count it. Tell me how many days of inventory you have on hand. Then it's super easy to figure out how much money you have on hand. If you come back and you're like, I have $90,000 in 2 years worth, I am still proud of you because you know the number, right? I'm proud of you to do that step. And then if you decide that's not for me, then I can help you liquidate that. I can't help you when you come to me and say, I don't know. I have some boxes in the corner. I can't do anything with that number. So I don't necessarily have a running total every day, but every month I can give it to you. I believe that, Harry. But so Harry says if you have more than 6 months of inventory, the COGS must have been really low. I'm going to preface that with if you have really good inventory, that was really low cost of goods. Otherwise, we still need to get it out. So when I do huge estate liquidations, I don't source for a while at all. So I also know I'm going to get a little slack on the fact that I 100% believe if you're sitting on a pile of inventory, stop your dang sourcing. Because I don't care if you say, I only get the really good stuff. It doesn't matter. You're sitting on all your money. Stop it. I get that we get a fear of missing out, or I only get this from this supplier. I only get this really good stuff. What are you doing? Stop. There's no need to be sourcing if you're sitting on piles and piles of inventory. Zero. Stop. Then it's a bad habit and you're feeding something inside yourself that wants to do it. You're not doing it for your business anymore. Calculated, so people sometimes need to get heavy on inventory during like a state sale season, a garage sale season. I totally understand that. As long as you're not lying to yourself. So if we're going into garage sale season and estate sale season and we have 3 months of inventory, well, how much do you really need to be getting heavy on during that season, right? Because you have 3 months worth you're sitting on. So we have to be honest with that. That's what I think it comes down to more than anything. You got to be honest to yourself, because there's people I coach individually that are lying. You guys are lying to me. And I don't know why you're spending your money getting coaching when you are lying, right? Tell me the truth, because then I can help you. I will never shame you by saying, okay, I have this many days and this much cost, and this is what I have, because then we have facts and I can help you. But when I know you have boxes and rooms full of inventory and you tell me you have a 3-day queue, I can't help you. You're lying to yourself, which then makes it so I can't help you. So I have a 30-day queue right now, like 33, I think, 33-day queue. That is still tons of money. I list 25 items a day, and actually I have a 30 days worth of inventory in each bag, because I'm banking some for my vacation and I'm banking some so that on flea market days. So 30 items a day times $4 cost of goods sold, average COGS, that's a lot of money I have to net every single day before I make a penny of profit. So think about that, right? So if you're on a 20-day listing habit, let's say yours is $5 cost of goods average, you have to net in your pocket $100 a day to break even. And that's not including shipping supplies. That's not including packing. That's not including any of your other expenses. That's just to break even on your inventory you're putting in your store. And then I get the wonderful answers of, but I already had it. I already had it. I already had it. It doesn't make it free. You still paid for it. Yeah, like, just because you made bad decisions a year ago doesn't make them not have to be answered for today. And if they were good decisions because they're great inventory and you have a year's worth of it, why are we still shopping? And then but I only shopped a little bit, only sourced a little. Well, take that time you're sourcing and get more listings up that are really good. So I have issues with these profit piles. I really do, just because business wise it doesn't make sense. But like Harry said, if you came along an estate that was amazing, which I have done, and it was really good and it was really cheap, that's fine. Then you log those, you count them, put them in a queue, and if you have 6 months of inventory, that's fine. But then why are you still going to the bins 3 times a week? You have 6 months of inventory. And then I want you to count those up and put them in dollar signs. Like, why people have this fear of missing out on their really good items they're still sourcing. It doesn't matter. You're going to just have to miss out a little bit if you want your bank account to keep growing. Don't forget the money associated with storing stuff. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, Larry. It's a good thing that my phone can't hear me. It probably can, actually, but it's a good thing other people can't hear me. When I hear these YouTubers that are like, I'm blowing through this and this, and I have 3 storage units full, but it's all good stuff. So it's an investment in myself. And none of it's listed, but they're still sourcing all the time. To me, that is just, I know I'm going to get slack for it.
They're sourcing for the sake of a different revenue stream.
They're sourcing. They're also sourcing because they like sourcing.
Yeah. But there are some that are just out there to get footage to post.
That's correct. And if those people are making more money on YouTube than they are on reselling, and that's why they're doing it, whatever, they can be justified hoarders. I get it, right? I get it. Because you're right. If you could say, I'm doing this for this other revenue stream, most of them aren't. Most of them aren't making money on YouTube yet, or they're barely making money on YouTube, but they've got all, they just, they want to tell people, but it's an investment in my business because I have all this inventory. It's really not. It's a big chain and ball hanging off of your business and your pocketbook. And let's say you sourced a lot before you knew better, because I think that happened to all of us. It happened to me. I will fully admit it. Like, I bought a lot of jewelry I shouldn't have bought, and then felt obligated to list it because I spent the money on it, and it was already money spent, so I might as well get some money back out of it. And I should have made huge, for a good year, I probably should have lotted that stuff up. And when I mean lot stuff up, I should have just been sending it out by the box full because it really hurt my business, me trying to force those things in it. I'm still getting things out. 6 months ago, I wasn't as good of a sourcer as I am now. And so I'm sitting there now, I'm paying the price because that stuff's still sitting in my store. And I have to now figure out how to get out of it. I just said in the other call, I sold some stuff for $7 yesterday. I probably didn't even make any money on that, right? I think my break even was like 9.25, or my break even, I made money up to on the shipping, which then made me profit $2.53 per item because I was making money on the shipping too. That I needed to turn that over and get it back and get it out. And we were talking on the earlier call too, and I'm going to do a call on it here coming up, is after 90 days, can we sell stuff? Absolutely, we can. It happens every day. The percentage of likelihood of items selling after that 90-day mark goes way down. And if we're pricing our stuff appropriately and we are buying really good stuff, in all actuality, if you guys look at your stuff, like when I do my 10 best sales of the week, or I do my reports for the week, most of the stuff I'm selling is stuff I just listed. Huge portion of it is within a week. It's selling within a week. And it really should be that way. If you're packing your store through full of the best stuff at the best price, the newer stuff's what's going out the door percentage wise. If it's not, then we need to reevaluate what you're putting in and what price you're putting it in at. I would really like to get through. I have a 90-day sell-through rate in my store right now, but I still have old stuff. Everybody has old stuff. We all have old stuff. But if you have an aged inventory markdown sale or system that you don't cheat on, and by the way, when I mean cheat, I mean if you're going back and forth with the price on those old items where sometimes it's still full price, then you don't have an aged inventory markdown system. You have a sometimes markdown system, right? Because that old stuff, we have to want it to go away. We have to want to get rid of it. After 6 months, give me an offer, it's gone. Because the likelihood of it actually selling goes way down. Can we sell things 3 years later? We absolutely can. But why do we want to, right? Got to get it out there. And I do understand like where Mimi says, hey, I have like 500 things that went out of my store, but I don't want to do it all at once. I understand that. But as long as you have them, and you're systematically removing them or putting them on deep discount, however you decide to liquidate them, it works. I get that, not one to, it takes a big hit on your store sometimes when we take a lot of things out at once. I understand that. But when we put our stuff on markdown, let's say I go into Coach and I'll see this and they'll say, yes, I have that's one of the questions on the questionnaire. Do you have an aged inventory markdown system? And they say, yes. And I go into their store and I say, oh, you must be doing like what Russell and I do sometimes where it's like 5% on a schedule, right? Because there's no different levels of markdowns in their store. Well, no, I only put it on like once a month or once a week or whatever, but I take it back off. Well, then you don't have an aged inventory markdown system. You have a sometimes system. So, and I was talking yes, this whole like weekend and this beginning of the week was really slow sales for me. It was running about half of what my sales usually are. So I put a 25% off sale because I know that'll within 2 hours, 25 sales. And I knew that was going to happen. I wasn't guessing that was going to happen. I knew it would happen. So when we get in tune enough with a niche down store, it doesn't really work very well with everything stores, I don't think. When we get in tune enough with our store that we know if I do this, I could slow my sales on purpose. When I do this, I know I'm going to generate a bunch of sales. And you can get it to where you are in control of it. That's a really nice thing. And you'll really appreciate it when you get it there. My sales are within about $300 to $400 every single week of itself. I run 4,300 to 5,500, but 5,500 doesn't happen a lot. So, I mean, realistically, I run between my average is the $4,500 to $5,000 a week gross, but it's very consistent. I don't have these wild swings, but it's because I'm consistent to my store. It knows what to expect out of me. I know what to expect out of it. And when you get to that point, it's just kind of like a well-oiled machine. But if I would start putting crap in it, that machine would break. If I would stop doing my aged inventory markdowns consistently and leaving them alone and letting them do their job, it would break. If I changed my offer system because I thought my stuff was too good to take offers or whatever, it wouldn't work anymore. If I changed my promotional rate, it would, I'm not saying it would be broken, it would change. It would change. So you just have to find those sweet spots for you and what you expect out of your store. So what I expect out of mine, what you expect out of yours is going to be different, and neither one's right or wrong. But if we want the sales, we have to do what it takes to make it consistent. Because having a really good week and then having a really cruddy week and then having a good week and the yo-yo gets hard. It really does. It gets hard. And so, you know, I told you the other day about that huge lot of brooches. I pulled 25 out of this huge lot that were really good. And then I started getting like, oh, I really need to list these. I really need to put them in my store because I paid for them and I already have them and they're not bad. They're, you know, I could make small lots, and I did make a few small lots of good ones, but I don't force things anymore. And when I have something in my light box, this happened to me this morning. It was a really nice charm bracelet. But then under the light, it had a little more wear than I noticed. And it had a little, but then I'm like, well, somebody will probably still buy it. But you know what? No. Should I be listing that? If it was sterling silver and rare, yes. If it was something really rare and different, yes. It wasn't. It wasn't rare. There's a million of them on eBay right now that are in perfect condition for less money. So it's got, I have to stop doing that to myself. It should have even made it to my light box. But now I'm just like, you know what? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not forcing stuff in my store anymore. If I notice a bunch of wear between the links, yeah, well, if you would disclose it, it'll still sell, but it's going to end up selling at like $9. And if I say it's going to sell full price, I am fooling myself, because most of the time it's not going to. We have to quit making, if you find yourself making excuses for your items, think about it. Why? Because I fell into that trap big time. And I'm going to put out a video that's called that I'm in the $25 toilet, because I'm totally in the $25 toilet. It drives me crazy. I find myself all the time at $24.99. I do not want to be a $24.99 lister. I do not. That's not where I want to be. But that's where I end up. Is that terrible? No. But do I need to change? Yes. How do I change? I have to do it. So now when I have two rhinestone brooches, that is, you know, we get rhinestone brooches that are probably $20 brooches, $15 to $20 brooches realistically. That's great. I need to be putting two of those together realistically to meet my goals. Does that hurt? It doesn't feel good, but I have to consider that when I'm buying them. This is not a standalone. If it's not magnificent, then it needs a buddy. And it really does, because then I'm listing $50, $49.99 or $45.99. That's better for me. It's better for me because it's taken up one of my slots, which is really important to me. Each of those slots is my time and my effort in my store, right? So do I want to fill those slots full of $24.99 toilet stuff? No, but that's what I do to myself. So I have to recognize that I got to quit doing that. It does even out, right? Because I list a lot of $100 items too. But boy, I was falling into this $24.99. And realistically, a lot of those $24.99 things are going to sell at $20. It's a fact. That's right, Lynn. It needed a buddy. Harry says the clothing condition changes helped me. I'm working to only list things I can confidently say is excellent. And that's what I'm talking about, confidence. And I used to make excuses for my items. Like, well, it's really old. Of course, it's got all this wear. And sometimes I do list things with wear and missing rhinestones, but it has to be worth it. That's also a video I have planned for us, or a call I have planned for us, is the price of flaws and when it's worth it. When it's worth it to fix it, when is it worth it not to fix? When should we just not list the dang thing? Right? Because I list things with flaws. I'm not against that, but it has to be worth it now. So that charm bracelet, it wasn't worth it. I was making excuses for it. The whole time I'm sitting there to take pictures of it, I'm making excuses in my head why somebody will probably buy it. Well, I don't want to list things that somebody will probably maybe screw up and buy it. I don't want that. I want things that I can confidently say are really good and people need to come in here and buy it, or they're being silly. Right? That's the confidence I want in my stuff. So when I have something that's like, oh, it's got a big chip, somebody will probably still think it's okay. If it's not a higher dollar item, it's not okay. Who wants a $25 brooch with a big chip in it when they can go buy a $25 brooch that's great on somebody else's store, but nothing's wrong with it? Does it still happen sometimes? Yes. but that's not what I'm going for to take up that spot. It's taking up my time, my effort, and my spot in my store. Those things are valuable, and I need to place more value on those things. So I'm really working on it. It may be excellent for a crafter, and that's exactly where it goes, Harry. It goes into the craft pile. It doesn't go in the garbage can. It goes in my craft pile. I had a guy text me today on eBay that asked if my gold-filled items are in my scrap lots, and I'm like, well, not on purpose. I'm like, could it happen? Yeah, but not on purpose. I mean, he's like, wow, you're honest. He's like, most of them would tell me, well, maybe, yeah, there's probably some in there. I'm like, I don't do it on purpose. Could it happen? Yeah, could happen. I don't want it to be on purpose. Um, so I want you to be able to tell me how many days. I know I harp on you guys all the time. How many days do you have in the queue? I want you to tell me how much money is in your queue. Do you think it was not shocking to me that I had $11,000 with inventory in that queue? It was pretty shocking, but it also was motivating. So I've got, I got that way sold down. And but Harry, on that same note, when he said the chipped brooch may be excellent for a crafter, absolutely. I'm not in crafter pricing mode in my particular store. So I could list that individually and somebody will buy it, but at what price? And then it took up a spot that it could have been listed a $35 item in. That's why I'm talking about my $25 toilet. If you're more than the 30 to 45 days of inventory on hand, you need to really reevaluate. That doesn't mean you're bad. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything. We need to reevaluate and say, okay, how much money do you have on hand? Are you still sourcing? And if you are, how come? Does that mean it's because it's garage sale season and estate sale season? If so, you need to have a goal of a number of items you need to get from that. I know how many items I want to pick up during flea market season. Does that mean, oh, I'm going to just stop when I hit that goal? No, but it makes me aware, right? It makes me aware because if I'm all of a sudden now I'm sourcing into next March, well, if I way oversourced, does that mean I'm not going to go to any flea markets next year? If my answer is no, of course not. Of course I'm going to. Then I need to slow it down and I need to be conscious of my buying. Being conscious of our sourcing is super important. Doesn't mean I'm going to say don't go, guys. You can't unless you're sitting on a pile of inventory. And then I'm going to tell you I don't care if you're only going after the really good stuff. Stop it. Get your money back first. Quit putting money out the door. It should all be coming in. You're in a beautiful place in one end because when I get heavy on sourcing, I just sit back and watch my bank account get fat, which is awesome. I've just had to start sourcing again since that big pile, but I love not sourcing. My bank account was getting big and I love it. And now I'm having to say goodbye to part of it and I hate it. Hate it. Hate it. But it was a really great deal. Reevaluate your really great deals, guys. And why did you put yourself in that position to begin with? You're sitting on a year's worth of inventory and it was a really great deal. What were you doing there? Why were you in a thrift store? Why were you on whatnot? Why were you doing these things? Right? We get that fear of missing out. Well, then we got to put ourselves in the position of we're not in a fear of missing out. We're actually sourcing because we're not sitting on piles of inventory. I realize I get hate from that because, well, maybe that one day I didn't go to the bins. They brought out all that good stuff. Well, maybe so, but you already have a lot of good stuff at home. And if you have a lot of stuff that isn't good, let's talk about how to liquidate it and free up your money. Because we can liquidate you right out of your problems. I've never found a liquidation issue, where I couldn't get Rowdy brings home free crap all the time. Rowdy sells tons of free junk, actual junk, but he gets rid of it. He's not sitting on it. He'll put it in boxes. He sells them as like thrift boxes for like 10, 15 bucks. And people will come and just buy these boxes full of crap. But he didn't pay anything for them, so he doesn't care. Of course, I have to step over him for a while, which really annoys the hell out of me. Suzanne said she had a customer let her know she posted an item for $27,687 last night. Yeah, I've done that. I had somebody that on a J. King necklace was like, you realize I can buy this for, well, my first answer was like, well, then go buy it. Then I realized it was $5,000. I'm like, oh yeah, oops. Did you ask if they wanted it? Yeah, kind of like I've got this one jewelry lady that wanted to keep going through my store and saying, well, you can go buy this for this price. And I want to say, would you like to make an offer? Like, I mean, fun. Like, how much time do you have on your hands? So I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys, how do we feel about our levels of inventory? I know a lot of you guys have tightened up a lot. Like, I think Larry is probably pretty light in going into a season because he knows he's going into a season and he intentionally got sold down and got through his stuff. And I know that he went through stuff in his storage. You're probably sitting in right about where you want to be, Larry. You're close.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty close. Am I muted?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, yeah. I was taking some notes to myself. I do have about 5 days worth of inventory, but most of it I would consider death, or at least stuff that I walk past all the time, or as I come in from the weekends here the past couple weeks, I'm more motivated to list my newer stuff just because of I'm buying a whole lot better. Some of the stuff I've still got in these boxes is from 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and I just need to throw it in my donate box and get it out of there because I need room for the higher return, easier to ship, less returns inventory that I'm in general sourcing better now than I was 3 6 months ago. I definitely need to make room because the season is upon us.
I think the fact when people have unlimited room, it's a blessing and a curse. Like I'd like more room, but if you have more room, sometimes you fill it up. And that's not always a good thing. But Larry brought up an excellent point. The walk, we've all had them. The whole, I need to make another queue of stuff, and you keep pushing that same pile of necklaces to the side. You know why? Because you don't want to list it because you're not excited about it, and it's no good probably, or not good enough. And if I'm not excited to list it, I'm not listing it anymore. If I'm
You,
not happy about it, I don't list it anymore.
I am have introduced a whole new different class of death pile and situation on myself by going with jewelry because I'm seeing that I'm myself doing that exact same thing. I've got a box over here. It's like, yeah, I've already got the good stuff out of there. It's like, if I got the good stuff out of there, then I got to get rid of it. Let's just put it in a box and ship the whole damn thing. But I've got to learn this process associated with flowing all the different kinds of stuff um, in with jewelry.
And the fact that Larry's going to figure out, all this jewelry sellers know, is that a really big box of jewelry can contain 6 months worth of inventory, right? Because they're small, they're tiny, and it's really easy to overbuy and have too much stock on hand because it's so little. Um, that's why when I like sort things like those brooches the other day, I have to make those decisions right now. I did not take those mediocre brooches and push them to the side because I knew what would happen. I'd keep pushing them to the side and they'd just be in that shuffle, that never ending shuffle, because I don't really want to list them because they weren't really good. Well, if they're not really good, what am I doing? Why am I putting them in my store? Why did I buy them? I was okay that I bought them. I still had a $4.27 buy cost in the really good ones. So those are going to go in a big lot, in a junk lot, actually. Like I'm not gonna take my time making small lots with them. They weren't good enough. And if I'm not happy to list them anymore, I'm not listing them. Right. So even if I conscientiously put something for 20 bucks in my store, it's because it's good. I like it. I really want to list it. If I don't really want to list it, I'm not listing it anymore. When I'm coaching people, the biggest hurdle I get, especially jewelry people, is I'm on their thing, they've got their camera on, they're showing me stuff, and they'll be like, oh, I only have 3-day queue. That's great. Show it to me. They show it to me. Awesome. What's that box over there? Oh, that stuff I need a lot of. That stuff I need to take. That's stuff I need to take care of. That was stuff I bought a long time ago. Then it's still part of your inventory, right? So if we have boxes we're shuffling around, the minute I quit keeping things that I wanted to make lots of later, which meant they were crap because I didn't want to list them on their own. They couldn't hold their own weight. So then I'd end up with a death pile of bracelets, a death pile of necklaces, a death pile of brooches, a death pile of rings. And they were all lots I was going to get to someday, right? Because I needed to accumulate them to make the correct lots. When the whole time I should have just been throwing them in a mix lot because mix lots sell better anyway, a lot of times. And I should have just been getting them out of my house. But some of them stung and they kind of hurt a little bit because I paid for them and I didn't get my money back out. So I felt like I had to sell them differently to try to recoup my loss. But at the time, it hurt me to say that I screwed up, shouldn't have bought them in the first place, and I had to recoup a loss. Because who wants to talk in terms like that, right? But like Larry says, I'm a way better source than I was 6 months ago, right? So, but if I do my queue correctly and I'm on top of it, that 6 month stuff already went through and it's not sitting in a box somewhere. But if we are buying and we have no idea how much we have on hand and we don't have control over it, then we're just now opening boxes from 6 months ago, and then we don't want to deal with it. We're shoving it to the side. That's a problem, right? Terry says it really helped him understand that every purchase is a commitment to process, list, manage, ship, and take returns. That's right. And if I'm not committed to that process because it's a mediocre item, then it's got to get on the process out. And like that, those mediocre brooches, I knew they weren't good enough. So I had to process them out, not just throw in a box somewhere for another day. Because those boxes for another day are not good for us. And they're mentally draining. Having all those boxes of crap laying around that I didn't want to deal with because they weren't really good. And the stuff I was buying now was better. So I was excited to list them. That stuff is very mentally draining on us. At least they were to me. Those boxes just weighed me down. Big time weighed me down. So having that thought process, like what Harry said, really good for me. And so I had that big lot that I told you guys I bought of the lady that it turned out it was an estate. I didn't even know it when I started working with her, but she had a bunch of Home Shopping Network stuff. And I got she shipped one box, it was like 46 or 47 pounds, and the other box was 16. So I went through the 16-pound box last night and I pulled out right here 71 items so far out of there that's really good and listable on their own. And I paid $562.42 for the lot, including shipping. So right now, if I didn't pull one item that was good out of the 40-some pound box, I'd be at a little bit over a $7 buy cost, which actually those items were good enough. That would be fine. But anything that I'm not excited about in there isn't going in my queue. It's going in a box. It's going away. Somebody else can get a good deal because I don't list things like that anymore. So, but I track things like that because I won't track it all the way through my sales system. I don't have time for that. I'm not going to, I do everything on averages. But when I'm processing it in, I keep, there's simple hashtags. There's simple hashtags. So as I'm processing it in, everything that's individually listable that I'm putting directly into a queue gets a hashtag. So I know I have 71 items that were really good. They're going into that. Because sometimes we get lots in and we feel like they're really good, but really there was only like 10 really good things in there. And then we lie to ourselves that we still had a $3 buy cost on them when that's not true. Because we had a bunch of mediocre stuff. So then instead of getting the mediocre stuff moving on the way out, we hang on to it. We try to list it. We try to force it into our store because otherwise we have to tell ourselves that we had a $15 buy cost on stuff that really wasn't that good. And that doesn't feel good. So we don't do it. We say we only paid $2.25 a piece for that. It came in a lot. Well, is that true? Did you really only have a $2.25 buy cost? Or did you force a bunch of mediocre stuff in your store to create that $2.25 buy cost? Because I know I have been victim to buying a lot before, getting it in and realizing there's only like 4 really good items and a whole bunch of not as good items. But if I even it out across the board because I work in averages, now it's only $2. But those other things I really shouldn't list at all. That happens a lot. But that's why I don't do piles for lots anymore. If I bring it like this big buy, right? So anything I pulled out last night, if it didn't fit into a small lot with what I pulled out last night, with what I was actively processing, went in the big box. I'm not going to wait and try to find it a buddy in a different box. Like its buddy's got to come with it. It had to have a built-in buddy or it doesn't get one and now it's in the big box. Somebody else can sort and make it up for it because I'm not. I'm not the matchmaker like that. My matchmaking system, you got to help me out a little bit. You've got to come with it or it doesn't happen. Because otherwise I was just like putting him in, this can go in a lot someday boxes. And it was not a good look for it wasn't a good look for my store. It wasn't a good look for my inventory system. It was a mess. Because then all of a sudden, then we just end up with piles of piles of piles and our piles create more piles. And I just had boxes of stuff. Larry says he's documenting his buys that include lots. I take a swag at reducing the sellable items count to account for the need to batch stuff together.
Yeah. So like, for example, I just bought, I got like 30 pair of earrings, but only 7 or 8 of them are signed and good or, listable as themselves. So in my accounting, I just said that was, 15 instead of 30 or whatever sellable items. to
That's the
adjust
way
for.
it really is. Yeah. If I do a
Yeah,
lot,
and it's
that's
not
one item.
perfect. It's not going to be exactly right, but it's going to be more accurate than lying to myself and saying I got, a $2 buy cost.
So if I have a lot of earrings and I get 20 pairs and I individually list 10 of them and the rest go to lot, the rest is one. So that's 6 items to divide into my buy cost, which becomes more painful, but it makes me a whole lot more careful when I'm buying lots. Have I had some that I end up like, uh-oh, this is not great? Yes, but instead of trying to create more lots when I just need to move on to try to make up my buy cost, I learn from it and I just move on, because that's how I create all those boxes all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here so that we can freely talk about this if you'd like to, but if you guys want to join us. And yes, I'm kind of a hard ass when it comes to inventory and death piles and all that good stuff, but if you want me to be that way with you and you want to join us or you want to give me a little pushback, that's fine too. Go ahead to Patreon for Reseller Revenue and join us.